And there we go. Good morning, everybody.
Morning, good
Morning.
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 Hey, this is session 8.5, Transit Worker Voices, how we collectively transform our industry and uplift our community. I'd like to welcome everybody here. I realize that everyone is just coming in probably from the plenary session. So we'll go ahead and start, given we have a short amount of time, but I think that will give you all a chance to see what we're doing. Let me just share screen here. There we go. So this is our session. I'm going to start just briefly by introducing who we are. California Transit Works is started in 2017. We're one of the California, what's called a high road training partnership, and began as a consortium of transit agencies, transit unions, and colleges focused on transit workforce development. The history of California Transit Works is actually founded by three different labor management partnerships: Santa Clara County, California, Santa Clara County Transportation Authority, Valley Transportation Authority, VTA, and ATU Local 265. Their partnership is called Joint Workforce Investment, and we have several people on today from that partnership. Golden Gate Transit's partnership with ATU Local 1575 is called Workforce Investment Network, and we have Rich on from there. And we also formed from AC Transit and Local 192, and their partnership is named Progress in Action. So those three partnerships were the foundation of California Transit Works, and we have since replicated this model, and we're currently working with 12 different transit agencies across California. And our principles are industry-driven, worker-centered, community-oriented, and measurable results. And this session is based on this question that I went in as a researcher. If you could design anything to improve your working conditions, what would that be? This is a pretty novel question in transit because in general, frontline transit workers actually don't have time to sit in a focus group to talk about anything. They're generally just out doing their jobs. So when offered this question, we got a great response. I ran them as third-party neutral focus groups with frontline transit workers. And the two programs that came out of that in particular that we'll be talking about today are peer mentoring programs and a mechanic helper career ladder program on the maintenance side. And I'd like to show you a bit of what that looks like. Let me switch to this view. And here we go. Actually, I'm going to unshare. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. PowerPoint is not one of my, there we go. PowerPoint is not one of my strengths. So let me go back and turn on the sound because I didn't have the sound turned on. There we go. All right. And why isn't the video playing? Sorry. Let's go back and do this again. Pam, can you get the video to run? Because mine's not running for some reason. Let's try it this way. Okay. Okay, I apologize. For some reason, this video is not running. So let's just go to the panel. So today I'd like to introduce the panelists, and we're going to be talking about various questions. We have Sue Yates from California Transit Works, formerly from Joint Workforce Investment. Paramomi, where'd she go? There she is. Also from Joint Workforce Investment at BTA and ATU 265. Rich Diaz is a coach operator and a peer mentor coordinator from Golden Gate Transit's partnership Alicio Acosta is from both Joint Workforce Investment and California Transit Works, Jermaine Gibson from ATU International, and Pam Egan from the UC Berkeley Labor Center. So let's go first to Sue and Param. Would you like to
All right.
start about your presentation?
We're going to be talking about the peer mentoring system and what that means to have a voice within our work system. When I came into transit years ago, we had nobody that we could actually go to. In fact, we were told when we went through training to stay away from everybody. So when you finally get out of training and you're on your own, you really don't know who to go to. What our peer mentoring system did was give new employees somebody they could trust to get reliable information from. That didn't mean that all of our mentors knew the answer to all of the questions. All that meant was that it was a place where they could go ask the question, and if we didn't know the answer to it, we would help them find that. It was a safe place. It was a place for them to be able to vent. Being out on the road, you're by yourself. You don't always know if you've made the right decision on dealing with passengers out there. And that's what peer mentoring did. It was we focused on the soft skills of the transit industry, the skills that you don't have time to learn when you're in training, because you need to be able to move that big vehicle up the road as safely as possible. You don't have time to work on soft skills on how to deal with your customers and to make that a safe place for yourself and for them. You can go in, and it's kind of one of those things you can make or break your day by just how you interact with your customer, and you can make or break their day just by how you interact with them. And that's what peer mentoring did, was it gave those operators the chance to learn those soft skills on dealing with those customers. So it also gave the industry the fact that we were, instead of having somebody look at us and saying, grumpy old bus driver, you had somebody looking at you saying, now there's a professional, so those were the kind of skills that we were offering, but it was also a safe place for them to vent if they needed to do that without getting bad answers. They got good answers. So, Param?
Hi, Sue. Yes, everything that Sue said, definitely, because when I came to VTA, Sue was my line instructor on the bus side. A tough one. I had a good time with her. Yes, definitely. And I was introduced into the mentoring program, and a great program for me, me being from, coming from a stay-home mom to driving these big buses, and then I moved to light rail, was a big difference. So a person like me would always be like nervous and would panic. So mentoring program did help me. And when I was introduced to this program to be a mentor myself, I was like, okay, here's my time to show how I got help and I can help others. I would, as you said, so if I didn't have an answer to the question, I would find out for them, lead them to where they have to, do not panic. This is how it was. Like being on the light rail is a different beast, it's a different world out there. So if I would talk about myself, being nervous, like, what if the light drops? How do you do this? Instead of me being all like nervous and shaken up. Oh my God, am I going to come get a come see me? I would rather go to my mentor and like talk to them. Hey, what's going to happen now? Because when you panic, you make more mistakes. So I learned to keep myself calm, and this is what I tell my new employees, the new mentees that come in: stay calm, don't panic. Use your mentors. Use this program as much as you can, because I believe this is a bridge that we and you guys for us have created. It's a bridge between the union and the management, and it's really helpful, super helpful for the employees that are coming in.
Great. Thanks, Param. I'd like to move on to the maintenance side now. Call on Alicio Acosta Jr., who is part of our very first pioneering program for mechanic helper. Alicio?
Hi, good morning. As Deb said, I was part of the first mechanic helper program. I started with VTA in 1999, and right around 2006, 2007, I started looking for employment elsewhere because unfortunately there was no ladder program at the time. I had gotten hired with VTA pretty much right out of high school as a service worker. And what a service worker does is service the coaches for the following day, cooking up a fuel line, checking the engine for oil, coolant, transmission fluids, wash the coaches and get it going. And it was a great job. It really was. But like I said, I was not afforded the opportunity to go to college or to go to a trade school. I started my career very young. Then a focus group came around and asking what we would like to see, or how, if we had, a few wishes, what would we like to see? And we asked for a ladder program. And word started moving around. We had to take some courses off site at the community college. And I promised my family, if I am afforded the opportunity, I will pass and I will do what it takes to get into this program. And it has changed my life tremendously in a few ways. One, financially, and let's be honest, it's all about dollars and cents. If it ain't about dollars, it makes no sense. It was a pretty large increase in pay, but mentally, it was great mentally for the challenge. And one aspect, I would check these engines for fluids, and now I'm building those same engines. And it's also a pathway for me to mentor others who also want to make a move, who feel that they don't have an option to move, or for whatever the case may be. Vocational schools are almost a thing of the past, so I'm able to tell them that I started off right where you're at. I'm here now building engines. The pride you take in your work shows because your badge number is going on. Well, for myself, on each component I build, my badge number is on there. So I'm going to build it to the best of my ability. And if it fails, they're going to see who built it. But if it looks good and it's running right, they're going to know who built it. So again, the way it's changed my life is, one, financially, two, mentally, emotionally. You walk around a little bit taller, prouder, and the opportunity I have now working as a lead is to be able to pass it forward onto my colleagues. People have questions, comments, or concerns about how it's done, or if how they can get involved. And it really is a morale booster to see these programs start to finish, because they know that there's a pathway now. And even coming over from operations, if operations just isn't what you're looking for, we have an opportunity to come over to the maintenance side and get into a ladder program. And when both parties are working together, labor and management, you can move mountains. But it has definitely changed my life in a multitude of ways. I'm a product of it. We were part of the very first program, and now other programs have, followed. We have an upholstery program starting here in the next couple of weeks, and an overhead line program coming about. So it's when both parties work together, you can move mountains. It's a wonderful process.
Great. Thanks, Alicia. Folks that have heard through the grapevine, and back in 2008-9 was one of them was Golden Gate Transit and ATU Local 1575. And in 2016, I went up to Golden Gate Transit and we started this same process that we started at VTA. Rich, you're one of the original mentors. Would you like to talk about your experiences and what it meant for you up at Golden Gate?
Yeah, I mean, as far as, experiences, like you said, it's for the mentorship program, it's, what you guys have touched on, it's amazing. I love the program. Um, it actually, what we're doing now is we have a pre-apprenticeship program, and with this program, we're able to help, communities, the relationship of public transit in our communities, right? It's vital. The communities that we're mainly talking about, they're historically underserved, communities of color, communities of first and second generation immigrants, right? And I saw firsthand during the pandemic, how important public transit was in getting our essential workers to work, right? And many of them lived in these communities. My parents, they're first generation immigrants. So I grew up taking, the transit system. And I personally know how vital it is to, to be able to get to school and to work without having to rely on a car. But now working in transit, I kind of have that opportunity to kind of give back in a way with the pre-apprenticeship program. A couple of the key elements, of the pre-apprenticeship program here at Golden Gate, it's centered around equity and a labor management partnership, like Alicia was talking about. Without that partnership, it just doesn't work. And what that means is I'm able to have a voice. I'm able to represent not only for transit drivers, but the same communities that we're serving. And the way we're doing that is by working with local, community colleges. They have outreach specialists. They have, ties in these communities to help them expose, that community to a career in transit, to kind of show them the benefits of working at Golden Gate, the benefits that, my parents weren't able to have, when I was growing up. And, what Golden Gate did, what they did was they were able to reevaluate the minimum qualifications and kind of some of the barriers surrounding the hiring process. And, what we found was, where were we losing these candidates, right? And one that really hit hard for me was in the interview process. And, I'll go over that a little bit more. But just, the end result after looking over, the where we were losing them. So what ended up happening is, we're able to waive having a high school diploma. We're having to waive, having a written test. We're folding the interview process into a shadow day, so it's not so formal. And then, if you have two or more moving violations, usually you'd be disqualified. Now there's a review process for that. And we're not necessarily lowering our standards because these students are, they're gaining these skills that they need through the pre-apprenticeship program. And, through the program, you're getting one-on-one support with the application, with writing skills, with the interview process. And just to kind of tie it all in, through personal experience, I have family there, first generation immigrants, English is a second language to them, and they have the skills to be able to drive a bus. But, if they went through the traditional application process, they would probably fail the writing test. They would fail the interview process. So now what I can do is I can refer them to the apprenticeship program. Well, they'll be able to get the support, and they'll be able to get into, Golden Gate Transit and into the transit industry. And, just having a voice and shaping curriculum and being a part of a program where, I'm able to give support and encouragement, help people have a successful career in transit, and it's all because of, labor management partnership, right? And a big part of that really is the hard work from, you guys at California Transit Works, right? You guys were able to help facilitate these conversations and make partnerships happen. And, kind of, you guys at VTA for kind of leading the way, and even ATU for shaping the future.
Thanks, Rich. I'm going to quickly show you the results of what everyone's talking about here. Now that we can get the video. There we go. All righty.
My fundamental belief is that the greatest amount of wisdom and knowledge about the work is in the hearts and minds of the people who turn the wrenches, who operate the trains and drive the buses and dispatch buses. Those are the people who absolutely know the work.
So you take these best operators and you pair them up with our newest employees and help them get through those hurdles of how to operating a bus.
The purpose of your mentor is there when you graduate training and you're out on the field on your own.
You learn all this stuff in class. When you get out on the road, or everything is different, but in the class they don't teach you how to manage your home life either, and with work.
You know, we've talked many times on what it takes. It takes heart. And that's what it is. You can't take that and put it inside of somebody. It has to be there.
This is about a year ago. You all at VTA invited Ray and I to come down and spend a Saturday with you. And first of all, I was amazed. I walked in the room, the number of mentors that were in the room. And the fact that most of you guys were there on your day off. Ron, you know, the one thing that stuck with me, and I'm going to call you out right now. How many years you been a bus driver?
Serious? 38 years, 2 months, and 18 days.
Guy, 38 years. This guy's bouncing around the room with energy, excited about teaching new people and spreading goodwill, and that just energized me.
Picking the right people with the right personalities to mentor new mentees coming in. And so for me, it was just perfect from the beginning, because your style of mentoring worked for me.
They connected me with somebody who's like, yeah, you know what, I do understand, you know, you might see some people that, you know, their stories might touch you a little bit, and this is how you handle it, and this is what you can do the next time, you know. So I really like that they connected me, that the program connected me with somebody who can really help me in my personal experience.
Eric was my mentor. Now I'm a mentor I'm coming on my 3 months now. So
kind of like full circle.
Yes. And I really wanted to become a mentor because of Eric, to be honest.
I believe the mentorship is a great program. I've never been part of a company that offered something like that, and I've never been part of a company where the coworkers were just so opening and welcoming.
It's nice to have a group of people that you can talk to and trust them, that they're going to direct you, tell you the right way, and give you good advice.
Pretty much I started off as a driver, operator. Came into this program. They told us pretty much it was going to last a year. We go through the helper process where we shadow journey level mechanics.
Transitioning from an operator to the apprenticeship, it was a challenge at first, you know, learning a whole new skill set.
So this right here, you probably won't see a no division?
They do start from level 0 to where we need to go over what hand tools are, how they're used, to where they're now, they know how to use the tools, they know the operation, they know how to perform jobs now.
Seeing that little light bulb inside your head going ping, it's that learning process that when you see them going from unsure of themselves and then being able to grab any kind of tool and say, okay, this is how it's gonna be done, and then you see it happen over and over and over. Little by little, they become more and more confident of what they're doing.
So this program was tailor-made to what VTA needs, but I believe this program could be tailored to any industry.
And see the future of VTA, I will not be here, but to know that I was part of that, oh, it means so much to me.
I am so honored and happy to have been your mentor, and I'm so proud of you, from going from a mentee to a mentor, to the JWI director, and now to the international union, local union. I'm super proud of you. And you know, I always say, you guys are my babies, so I'm a proud mama right now.
It felt like family. You know, this is my family.
I'm really excited about what we're doing now. I like Walter and a couple other people said, we didn't have a mentoring program when I started here. So when I found out that they did have one, I wasn't an original member, but when I was able to get in, I signed up. So again, I got 11 years here, and I'm trying to give something back.
Thank you. So you saw several people from the video in this room right now, so you'll be happy to answer any questions. But before that, Jermaine, I'd like you to go and speak about from your international point of view how you're looking at this.
Yeah, thank you, Deb. Trying to get myself together after watching the video. It always kind of chokes me up to see it. Again, what we're talking about today is, labor management partnerships. And I think one of the things that it does, it empowers, workers and gives workers a voice. It gives workers the feeling that the work that they're doing is theirs. I think Tom quote in the video at the very beginning was spot on, because I think the piece I'm going to cover is the transition to zero emission technology. And his quote was, "The greatest wisdom is in the people that do the work." And that could be no truer than, as we talk about transitioning over to zero emission technology. I think, having workers at the table, having workers be part of, that plan, what that plan is going to look like, how the training is going to be rolled out. It gives us more ownership in that. As we move into, a realm of everybody being kind of unsure of what this is going to look like and how is this going to work, having workers at the table, I think, is going to be the key to make sure we make this transition as safe as possible. Another thing that we talked about is not just having worker voice included at a transit industry or transit agency level, but also at the level when we're putting together policies. As I look at what has been put in place so far, I wish that we had more of our workers, voice included, as all the money and all the different things are being rolled out for zero emission technology, because there are some real critical things that should be considered, especially when you're talking about a transition like this. One, what type of training is going to be needed? Two, how do we maintain current service levels and train the workforce that we're going to need in the future? And then three, I think the biggest piece is what safety equipment is going to be needed to work on this new type of technology. So again, I think what labor management partnerships do is bring everybody together, one from the transit agency and one from the locals and the unions, to really have these conversations. And what I like to see, and what I'm starting to see, especially with this HRTP model, is how do we now work together to now influence policy for the future? And so again, being able to come into a transit agency and a local transit agency like VTA and a local like ATU 265, I just assume all transit agencies ran that same way, where you sat down and you talk with your operators and you talk with your mechanics and you ask them what it was or what it is that they need to support their career growth. And I'm learning over the last 3 years, that's not the case. And so again, I think one of the things that, as we talk about worker voice, ATU International is trying to take this whole HRTP approach that California is doing onto a national level of saying, this is how we should work together in the future around public transportation. And this is how we do it working together. So again, I'm so glad to be part of the conversation. I'm so glad to see the video, because it reminds me what I looked like before COVID to a certain degree. But two, I think you've heard a lot so far about the mentoring program. And I think Sue said it in the video. It really takes heart. It really takes someone to care about someone else, to pour their knowledge, their wisdom, the skills that they've gained over a 20, 25-year career into someone that's new, that they don't know if they're going to stay around, but they're there to support them. So again, all that works together, because you can't have mentor programs if you don't have good labor management partnerships. So I'm just happy to be on the call.
Great, thanks, Jermaine. Pam, would you like to comment as the discussant for this program, please?
Sure, although I'm not sure that there's anything more I can add than you've all said. I mean, this is extraordinary. I think Susan or Stephanie mentioned in the chat that the video choked her up. I don't think there was a dry eye on the call. It's inspirational, it's moving, and it's just so powerful, because it starts with that worker power that everybody mentioned. That's what came out most strongly for me, that this is really about worker voice, worker power, right? Deb, starting with what you had to say about starting with that question that maybe nobody asked before. If you could make a change in your workplace to improve your working conditions and your work life, what would that look like? Just the sort of the simple brilliance of that particular question, asking workers, what should we do to make this better? Transformed an entire industry. Is transforming entire industry, starting locally and then moving regionally, and now moving nationally and internationally. So that, I think, demonstrates the power of worker voice, collective worker voice in particular. Also, that transformation impacts, as we can see from the stories that you all told today and the stories that come out in the video, it was transformational in terms of workers individually, but also in terms of workers collectively. And I think that's really a key part of the structure here. And that starts, as Jermaine, I think you really elegantly just said, with that fundamental labor management partnership, right? The fact that ATU is at the table brings that structured power from the worker perspective that is able to move this from transforming individual workers, supporting individual workers, to moving workers collectively. And that's the kind of power that shifts labor markets so that we can actually start to achieve our goals around equity, around climate resilience, around job quality, and entire communities for collective populations. And that leads me to sort of the last thing I'll say, and then I'm guessing that our audience has questions. But I think it's great to take a step back and really recognize from what we heard that transit workers are really at the forefront of the crises that our nation is facing right together. Crises that really disproportionately impact under-resourced and marginalized communities, folks that have been historically left out of the economy. Severe economic disparity or polarity, right? The haves at the top and the have-nots, right? Huge economic disparity in our country. Climate change, right? And the disparate impact that climate change has on the communities that we're talking about, right? And structural racism, again, exclusion of whole groups of people from the economy. All of that comes out here, and transit workers themselves are disproportionately impacted, come from those communities, and transit serves those communities as well. And all of the work that you're doing shows an impact on all of these places, moving workers that have been left out of the economy into family-sustaining jobs that serve their own communities, that serve communities that have been disproportionately impacted by climate change with electric buses, right, that are making a significant impact, have the potential to make a significant impact on climate change and on the health of our communities. So this is really an extraordinary place to look to see how we can impact these major crises that are affecting our communities. So congratulations to all the work you do. And I think it'd be a great time to open up to questions from the floor.
Absolutely. We wanted to leave lots of time for questions and discussions, both from attendees to this workshop, as well as between folks, because I know you all don't get a chance to be together very much. So open for questions. Any questions, comments? Stephanie.
Yes, hi. Well, it's morning where I am. So hello to everyone. I just wanted to tell you why I got choked up watching that video. I work for FMCS. I'm a neutral, but I got my start in communications at the phone company. And it was people like that pulled me to the side and said, hey, kid, you're working too fast. This is how you do it. It was kind of an informal network, but it really is what got me involved in the labor union and so the rest is history. But now as an FMCS commissioner, I just wanted to offer that we provide labor management support, and it's at no cost to the parties. So if anyone is interested, if we can support your program in any way, fmcs.gov is how you can find a commissioner in your area.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. Yes, my first labor management experience was actually in the hospitality industry, and the FMCS was instrumental in getting that started. It was a little bit more robust at that time, which is many years ago in terms of funding programs, but I think the work that the FMCS does is fantastic. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Ting Ting.
Did I unmute myself? Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Like, I had no idea this is a session that I will learn and I will hear. So like, this is so inspirational. Like, I joined this session because like, I love public transit. That's it. So I was anticipating, like, I came in this session, folks going to talk about like the challenge and difficult and the contentious relationship, like, we experienced it in the past few years because of the COVID, right? But this is such a warming, inspirational, hopeful kind of like a session. So I learned a lot. I just want to kudos to all you guys for doing this amazing work. And as a scholar, I'm also kind of interested and I want to learn more a little bit about your workforce. Is pretty much scattered, right? Like, you have this nice kind of like a peer mentorship and partnership, but from the union's perspective, it's still hard to gather all the membership together, right? Like, to listen to their voice. So I was wondering, how did the memberships, the record files voice being communicated within the union, so you guys as a representative can talk to the management to speak out their concern?
That's a great question. Do you want to go with that?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the ways that we do it at VTA, or that they're doing it at VTA, is we have these different mentor meetings. I think at some point we had 90, 95 mentors, up to 90 and 95 mentors. And in those meetings, the way Deb, put them together, that's one of the things I want to point on before I get into exactly what I was going to say. The importance of Deb Moy to VTA's program has now led to what we're doing at a national level. Having that neutral third was key, and it still is key. And again, I just want to say, Deb, what you've been able to do is really transforming transit. You don't always take the credit for it, but we're using what you did at VTA everywhere else. But in those meetings, she had it structured in a way where we could bring a problem, but we had to bring a solution. And since those meetings were joint meetings, you had someone from the transit agency that was there that can hear the concerns, that can hear what those complaints was, but could also hear what the solution might be. And so I think with years of being, because it doesn't happen overnight, with years of having good solutions come from those meetings, led to a certain level of trust, to where at one point before I left to go to the ATU, they would come to us and say, hey, we got schedule change coming up. What does this group think? We're planning on changing around the routes. What do you think? So it became part over time what VTA did to kind of make sure worker voice was included. And then the union also used that as a way of getting out real concerns, but coming with solutions at the same time.
Great. Rich, you want to talk about that from Golden Gate 1575? I know that program's a little bit younger, but on the other hand, has pioneered really great stuff. So, Rich, take it away.
Honestly, I'm fortunate. I'm really fortunate because I'm around a lot of people who, like you guys, who have pioneered a lot of this, right? So we're really just following after your guys' footsteps and kind of molding it into our program. So, for us, is trying to figure out, like you said, having these mentor meetings, having these leadership meetings, right? Just having the conversation is always just the first step. For me, like I said, there's certain things that I, there's things that we won't talk about, like politics or religion, but when it comes to worker voice and when it comes to actually, advocating for our workers and everybody else, this is something that's important to us. So, we really want to push and make sure that, not only are our voices being heard, but also the concerns of, our passengers, right? So we're looking at transit as a whole.
Prom, would you like to comment also? Prom's a current lead. There's 4, 5, 6 leads. Is that correct? There's 6 leads at VTA. These are 1 per yard, but in terms of how do you actually communicate with folks, yes, it's difficult because people are everywhere all the time, all over the place. So even pulling this panel together, we had to go through a couple of schedule adjustments just for us to be able to have a meeting. Some people work nights, some people work days. There is a lot to this, and so you're correct in saying it's a difficult issue. Param, you want to talk a little bit about that, what you all go through to even have a meeting?
Yes. So first of all, it's a challenge to like, for example, like yesterday, I'm just going to go with the example. Like yesterday, Deb made some calls and got me to relief so I could be in this meeting. So somebody else took over my run. A lot of achievements through this program. So as I said earlier, this is a bridge. JWI is a bridge between union and the management, where I've written something here. So it's a great program through which we have an opportunity actually to work together for a common goal that balances the rights and responsibilities of all our employees. So as G was saying, actually I have so much to say that I'm just getting confused at this point, and I have a call coming in between. Getting into the mentors meeting. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so there was a call coming in between actually. So when we get into the mentors meeting, how do we do this? We have a panel. We have panel from management. We have panel from dispatch. We have panel from OCC. We have panel from mechanics, service workers. So as an operator, we talk to them. Like, for example, why our buses and trains are not clean. So they tell us, right, the reason. So, and this is how we communicate. Dispatches, why we are not relieved, or with the management, like with OCC, why do the operators think that OCC is a little rude? So then they tell them, it's just a small example, like, we have so much to the back, we have so much to do. It's not that we're trying to be rude, we're just trying to take another call and all this. So there are several things that opens up for the operator and for the management, for the OCC and everybody else on the other side. So I just love the fact that we in one room can have everybody and just sit and talk about our problems. Achievements, I want to talk about achievement. This is a room that we achieved. Deb, Sue, I want to thank you all. Deb, with your permission, can I move the camera around and show them?
Sure,
what do we
go ahead.
Here? All right, so this is the office that we all work from. This was G's station. G, do you remember this? And there is G, employee of the quarter, and that's G's teddy bears when he flies.
Oh boy, now we're really getting into it.
I am sorry. So these are the pictures, all the achievements that we have here. I am so proud every time. And there's a poster that we have for G here. So, and it's not G, it's everyone. Deb, Sue, Tom. I do not want to forget anybody's name, but I want to include everybody. And our leads, our mechanics, junior, everyone. Just want to thank everybody. This is a great program, and I'm so glad that I'm a part of this meeting today so I can share this, where we are today, because of this joint program.
I just want to point out, I know it might seem funny to say let's highlight an office, but when we first started, we had nothing. And then we had a desk in the corner of something else on top of somebody else. Rich, you guys still don't have an office at Golden Gate, right? You all are operating out of your cars and out of your houses. So it's really inch by inch to be able to create something. To get an office like that was just tremendous, because it took 10 years to get that office, just to put it in perspective. So Patrice, you have your hand up.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the panelists. I think this is a really interesting and innovative presentation, and I appreciate all the material that you shared. My work, my teaching and research focuses on public sector unions, labor relations. I teach in a Department of Public Policy and Administration, and I find that a lot of what's written there really treats public sector unions as kind of a nuisance to management. So I often feel like I'm the lone voice, kind of speaking against that and speaking for more collaboration. And so I'm always looking for things that I can use in my research and in my teaching. And I'm curious to see if this effort, if this sort of mentorship program and the collaboration with management led to any written reports, and also that video that you showed, is that publicly available? That's something that I'd like to be able to share with my students, because it's really hard to find materials to share that focus on the public sector, and most of my students go to work in the public and nonprofit sectors.
Yes, thank you. I just put in the chat our website, and actually I had it up on the PowerPoint earlier with the QR code. I could put that in as well. Our website is catransitworks.org, and if you go to the resources tab, you will find several, there's reports and there's videos. So you'll find several reports, including from the University of Wisconsin, UCLA, etc. And there are also a number of videos. Some of them are on the resources tab and some of them are scattered throughout the website. We're working on trying to consolidate that. But yes, this video is on the website, as well as other videos about different aspects of work, not only from California Transit Works, but in particular, we try to highlight what the partnerships are doing within California. So hopefully that would help, and I'd be happy to contact you, or we can stay in contact. I'll give you my email address. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, yeah, great. That's perfect. I just
And there's
thought
my
of
email address.
the website, and I would like to stay in touch because I'm working on my book on public sector labor relations now, and I'm looking for some good examples of partnership to include. So thank you very much, and I would like to stay in touch.
You're welcome.
Deb, now Patrice, I also want to add in, again, with the help of CTW, ATU International is taking these programs across the country. I think we're currently working with 64 transit agencies and different locals. We're also doing a lot of work with the DOL and community colleges around how do these partnerships, create career pathways. So again, a lot of great work is coming out of California that's going to influence, I think, the country over the next couple of years. And that's all being done from California Transit Works.
Thanks. Stephanie?
Yeah, so thank you for that. And what you just mentioned, Mr. Gibson, is like a follow-up question that I have. Have you seen the work that you're doing across the country and have an impact on the driver shortage? Because I hear that a lot from I work in the Dallas area, and so shortage of drivers there across the South, and even with some of the larger companies that run across state lines. Have you all seen a positive impact, or have you learned anything you can share on the driver shortage?
I'll add this piece in, and I'm looking forward to being in Dallas in a couple of weeks. I just did a presentation for DART last week. I'm gonna throw my union hat on this one. We're facing shortages all across the board. But I think hopefully, what I'm hoping is that over this last 2 years, COVID has really highlighted how important public transit is and how important the drivers and operators are to public transit. One of the issues that we have with our labor shortage is the lack of respect that operators receive, not only from the public, but from the transit agencies that they work for. I have some operators that take 6 or 7 years to get the top pay, and the top pay is $25. That doesn't work, right? That's no longer, it's not going to work in this economy. Another big piece that we talk about, public transit being a solution for diverse areas. But one of the things that we got to realize is a lot of people that we attract come in with kids. And so being an operator, you may be able to drop your kid off, but you may not be able to pick your kid up, or you may be able to drop off and pick up, but you're not there to do homework and see at the end of the day. So there's a lot of different issues that we have to fix, and that will help us draw people in. But what I am encouraged by is that I'm seeing more ATU locals and transit agencies sit down and talk about how do we really support new operators when we bring them in? Because our industry has been a burn and turn industry for so long. We are hired 200 operators and we lose half of them. So it wasn't until they put together this great program at VTA where they saw their retention rate get as high as 95%. I think that retention rate of new operators is still over 90%. And I'm looking and I'm thinking about the programs that we have put together that are all fed off VTA, and they have this huge, their retention rate is much higher than places that don't have these type of support systems in. So again, I think there's several things that we're going to have to do, but what we're doing right now, at least we're having that conversation amongst unions and transit agencies.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here too. That's an excellent question. It extends both to the operator side and to the maintenance side. Alicia, I'm going to have you talk about this in a minute as well. We tried to do a very quick presentation so we'd have more time for discussion. And one of the things Rich was pretty modest about, but we're actually pioneering a new program right now, which is a linked program of a pre-apprenticeship and an apprenticeship between two different colleges, community colleges in California. So the pre-apprenticeship program that Rich spoke about was looking at directly how to get folks who historically can't get into these jobs better access. And that's something that a lot of agencies and unions are trying to look at right now. So the hope is that as they go through the pre-apprenticeship program at Santa Rosa Junior College, they then graduate from there and go into the apprenticeship program. California Division of Apprenticeship Standards has a local educational agency requirement. So College of Marin is that local educational agency. So they will be doing the credit classes, if you will, part of technical training for the apprenticeship, while the peer mentors at Golden Gate will be doing the on-the-job training for that apprenticeship program. So that's one thing that we're starting. The first meeting is June next week, right, Rich? I believe is the first outreach meeting. So we'll be reporting back, but we've already had at least 15 different agencies all ask us, how are you doing that and how is it working? So clearly there's a lot of interest, in how to recruit on the operator side. On the maintenance side, we're having the same issue. Jermaine briefly referenced the mandate to move to zero emission buses, which is either hydrogen or electric, depending on the agency choice, by 2040. And there are other states who have that same mandate. The issue of where you find people to do that work is a whole other thing, because there's a lot of retirements going on in maintenance too. And as Alicia was speaking, there aren't a lot of vocational programs in high schools anymore. So where do you find folks that want to raise their hand and say, yes, I want to go be a mechanic, and they have no idea that it's not wrenching anymore. Now it's computers. I can show you another video, which we don't have time for, all about this issue, but you're now using a computer for diagnostics. There's, 51 computer systems, Junior, on a bus? Something like that. And so being able to not only train incumbent workers, but to get new workers to come in for on the maintenance side is also imperative. Alicia, you want to talk a little bit about what you all are going through on maintenance?
Yeah, well, everything right now is turning over to high voltage. So we've got to take extensive training on shutdown procedures on the hybrid portion of it, because you don't get a second chance. We've got to disconnect certain items and then check to make sure that there's no residual power still in these the propulsion units, and it's all hybrid, all high voltage. So, and as Deb mentioned, when I went through it, it was diesel engines. We were phasing out. The Detroit diesel had just left, and everything is becoming technologically advanced. Where do you find individuals who are interested in working in this? But we still need it, and unfortunately the vocational courses just aren't being offered. And as Russell, who's not here with us today, but he's mentioned, he'll go in and say, how many people are interested in electrical? And you may have 2 people out of 30 raising their hands, but that's what you need to do. There's a lot of gamers out there, and it is fun, but you're going to be working on computers a lot. And as a mechanic, you don't think that that's what happens. You're thinking that you're going to get in there, jump in and get dirty, bringing out all these tools. Well, most of your tools are going to be insight and laptops and learning programs. So that's where we're headed. No more combustion engines. Everything's going to be electrical, battery operated. That's where we're heading to. But I did want to chime in real quick on, I think Patricia was mentioning about labor and management and the trust factor. I work with the union. I'm an organized with the union. I sit on a safety joint labor. So sometimes labor and management are duking it out in other aspects, but my boss's boss picked me up at an airport when I was in Riverside, and we have between the two of us, she said, all right, we're here now for JWI. So we're going to keep everything between us and we're going to trust each other, and whatever happened in the safety meetings happened in the safety meetings. So that was just one point I wanted to add on to. I didn't get an opportunity to, is the mutual trust between labor and management when we're working together in the JWI. Back to the mechanic portion of it, the technology is changing substantially. And we've got a long road ahead of us, getting, as Jermaine said, how do we get the training for everybody who needs it? Because it's only getting more difficult. It's a spider web of issues with 51 different programs on these coaches, where we've got our work cut out for us, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And again, from me sweeping these coaches to now be working on these high-tech $1 million systems, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I can truly say that I love my job. So we're gonna get there, but it's definitely gonna take some work.
Thanks, Alicia. Ting Ting.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to follow up on this whole, the future of work, the climate crisis, the electrical vehicle, electrical bus, and also the maintenance work. Maybe kind of like this also spill over a little bit to the driver's side. Like you guys mentioned all the challenges for lack of program, lack of interest in terms of new participants. In the building trade sector, like they bring in the whole training facility in-house, that all the training are run by union. Have you ever considered that could potentially be an option, right? And also, I don't know, I'm just naive and just throw ideas out there. And also, what about the existing workers? In what way you can provide support so they can get the training, and maybe through the apprentices programs that you guys mentioned, or in some other ways. I'm just curious, how would the union play out in those kind of more adaptive training kind of a method or approach? Thank you.
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes left. I'm just going to quickly answer that question, and then I know, Rich, you had a wrap up you wanted to do as well. The issue of training is a little different between building trades and what we're doing here in transit. And if you talk to any transit agency, Michael Hirsch, who's the general manager, CEO of AC Transit and had formerly been at VTA, he'll tell you all answers right now are local and regional, because there just isn't any way to take 100 mechanics and bring them all to a certain place. You've got 1 million different components, literally. And while you might have X number of bus manufacturers, each of them does it a little different. And then each of them does it a little different for your particular agency. So while you can do this is one of the big questions in transit. There are some things you can train universally, basic electronics, basic safety, things like that. But when it gets right down to it, there are just things you have to do in your local regional area. So this is an issue that people are hotly debating right now, because there's a shortage of trainers also, which we haven't talked about. So we do want to figure out ways to do things more regionally, globally, if possible. And people are definitely trying to do that. There have been some great videos produced and efforts produced from various organizations. With the FTA is now trying to do more outreach and information about how to do some of these different things. With the Transportation Learning Center, I think they have, it's called the the Transportation Workforce Center.
Transit Workforce Center. Yeah.
Transit Workforce Center. So they're trying to address the questions you're talking about. A lot of people have been trying to address the questions you're talking about of how do you do something universally, but it's hard. 1 minute. Rich, you got a quick 1 minute? You had your hand up, and then we'll have to wrap. Go ahead.
Yeah, just really quick. I know, actually want to go back to Stephanie's question and going back. I know it's only 1 minute. we're all facing hiring and retention issues all across, not just transit, but the whole industry. And, the most conventional way to kind of attract people, obviously, is through ads. And, Deb and I kind of touched on this pre-apprenticeship program, and it's something new. And the great part about the pre-apprentice program is that we're getting exposure. We're giving people the opportunity to see what transit is like in community colleges now. And then also we have outreach specialists that are going into these communities and actually going in and saying, hey, come check out this career. But just to kind of tie it all in, there's a process. There is, starts with a conversation, a mentorship program, and the apprenticeship program. Without the apprenticeship program, there is no pre-apprenticeship program. So, definitely have to walk before we run, right?
Great, thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. This has been a great conversation. Looking forward to keeping in contact with everybody. We did put our information in the chat, so if you'd like to contact any of us afterwards, we'd be happy to speak with you. And with that, that's the end of this session. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice. Excellent presentation, you all.